talking. And
Hello, all.
Aisha, how are you today?
I'm good, darling. How are you? Beautiful Gwenda Lambert.
I'm fabulous. And blessings of the equinox.
Blessings of the
Have
equinox.
that. So this is all about spring. We're in a really interesting time right now because we just had a full moon, which is all about release. And this one was again, all of the full moons are counting on us to actually start choosing ourselves. So and then being equinox, which is Bridget, which is the goddess, the Celtic goddess Bridget, is all about renewal, and it's all about planting the seeds for tomorrow and really what it is that we want to create. And so this isn't just about manifesting, it's about creating who we are, right? So today I'm going to pass it off to the lovely and talented Aisha Adami Miguida. I haven't done a shimmy for a while.
So
Who is going to, because we're going to walk through the way that we talk to ourselves. We have to be our own cheerleaders. We have to be compassionate with ourselves, because if not, those words, the language that we use when we talk to ourselves can really affect how we show up, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes it means observing patterns and interrupting patterns. So here's Aisha, the language lady. I like that, the language lady.
Language lady.
So because she intentionally designed your life, but she just does fabulous. I love the fact, the one thing I love about her, she takes a lot of verbiage and puts it into one sentence. I love that. I don't necessarily have that capability. So you're not right there. I should be nicer to myself.
Yes, exactly. You should be. Yeah.
Good. Okay, I'm going to let you start, or maybe we do start there, that it's okay. The one thing is we always focus on what we do best, but usually we talk about the things that we're not good at. Like that again can be like, so we're putting ourselves behind the 8 ball by critiquing and criticizing ourselves. And that may not be the truth there. How's that a good segue?
Oh, no, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Thank you, Gwenda. Thank you, honey. And I think that, what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about how we use the language of truth in 2 ways, one with ourselves and one with other people. And exactly what you said to begin with is, how do we use the language of truth when we're talking to ourselves? And really also recognizing whose truth are we? Whose truth are we repeating to ourselves? Because sometimes we're not telling ourselves a truth that is actually true for us. We're telling ourselves a truth that we've been socialized to believe, or something that's been ingrained or imprinted on us since we were kids. And let's face it, a lot of us are, and I think I've mentioned this on the show before, but one of my ex-bandmates, Tony Wright, said a long time ago that we're all broken children walking around in adult bodies. And more as we go through life, I feel like, they're absolutely right. That is 100% the truth, is that there are a lot of things that are unresolved for us and unacknowledged for us. And so when we're talking to ourselves, we are often telling ourselves the same stories that we've been telling ourselves forever and ever and ever, right? And so one thing we want to do when we're talking about the truth, and I'm going to put that in big quotation marks, because the truth is not, it's not simple, it's relative, it's complicated, right? So when we think about the big T truth, there is no big T truth, right? So for example, you might say to yourself, okay, I had this incident that happened and I really screwed it up, and I did a really piss poor job of it, right? And then you can say that that's the truth. And then this truth right alongside of that is, you did the best job you could with the information that you had, with the tools that you had at the time. If things were different, perhaps you would have made a different choice. And this is what, when Gwenda put it so eloquently about having compassion for ourselves, that's exactly what we're talking about. We're talking about being able to reframe things. And so we're not talking to ourselves in this negative language. We're talking to ourselves with the kind of compassion that we actually need to be able to process and to be able to work through things in a healthy way, right? I want to introduce into here also and I know I talk about this, I've talked about it before, and I'll continue to talk about it, is the neuroscience behind how we think and the kind of patterns that we have, right? So as Gwenda mentioned about pattern interrupting, we also get really down on ourselves when we can't interrupt a pattern. Like for me, lifelong eating stuff. Okay. I go up and I go down. My weight goes up, it goes down. Right. And that's something that is, even for those of us who are trained in this methodology of how to interrupt patterns, these are not easy things to change overnight. It takes time to work through them. And you're also working with the neuroscience, because as we know, those patterns are so well ingrained in our brains that we don't even know that they're going from this trigger to that action. It happens so quickly because it's so ingrained. It just goes whoop, and then it's happening. And then you're just like, wait a minute, what just happened? Right. So if you've had this experience, you're in a conversation with someone, all of a sudden you feel like your face is getting red, you're going to blow up, and then you blow up and you're like, that's not how I wanted that to go. Right. Because why? Because that's how your brain is trained to operate in this scenario. When you feel that threatened, when you feel like you're not being heard, when you feel like you're not being seen, what happens in your case? Blah, you explode. Okay. So understanding that there's neuroscience involved gives you the chance to say, okay, you know what? It's not, give yourself that break, give yourself that compassion. It's not your fault. Part of it is your brain wiring. That's going to take time. That takes, reflection. That takes patience. That takes pausing. It takes a lot of skill and a lot of tools to actually start to dismantle those things and to interrupt. And there are little things that you can start to do to interrupt those. And we'll talk about this in a second. But it's understanding that piece of how these things happen, how the truth comes out, is you need to interrupt that story. You need to reframe it. You need to talk to yourself in a compassionate way. And you have to do it over and over and over and over again, right? And that's when you start to actually see changes, is when you're doing it when you don't want to do it.
Mhm.
Because it's also comfortable to be in that place where you may feel discomfort, but it's also a comfortable place to be blaming yourself and hiding away, because then you withdraw from the things that actually you really want to do, right? And again, that's brain functionality. Gwen, what do you think?
Oh my God, everything. I love it, because I think I've just finished this doing coaching through this positive intelligence, which I know you've done as well.
Yeah.
And the thing that I love about that program, because you can have CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, and this is where, if you do have anxiety-based challenges, definitely see if you can get into a CBT program, because that's something that does teach you compassion. Like, it allows you to start looking at reframing, but it's a very structured, that is a therapy. And that's one of those therapies that are very particular. NLP, neuro linguistic programming, again, that's the whole point of that. And a lot of that is reframing and how we think and how our brain functions, which is fabulous. But it's again, the importance to be emotionally honest with your words is, first of all, do you feel in your body when you're saying something that is hurtful to yourself or to others? Do you feel that tightness in your heart?
Yeah.
I know for me, a lot of times, because I was told to shut up, or I was, they tried to shut you down. So it's not just the word vomit that you were talking about before, that it might actually be that you can't find the words and you can't get them out. So, so I think that's, again, as you said, for us, we need to be able to witness our programming, or witness how we speak to ourselves, and really be aware of it, because until you're not getting aware, you can't do anything with it, right? Like, you can't solve a problem when you haven't acknowledged it. And again, I know I've talked about this before, but this is so huge, because this was a huge aha moment for me before, is that because I was trying to do everything positive, I kept saying, oh, well, I'm excited. And I know I am like that. That is part of who I am. But I was using excitement instead of anxious. And there is a difference between being excited and anxious, but the difference is I can't just always be excited and not address the anxiety. Because if we don't embrace that part of us, that conversation that we're having in our head to say, oh, I'm just going to go and fluff over everything and make sure, then it's not giving us the opportunity to say, okay, what do I want to do? What language do I want to use instead? What is the difference in my body between when I'm feeling anxious and when I'm feeling excited? Right. And being able to know that, because then it doesn't matter who or what the conversation is. Like, as I started with the positive intelligence, when you're coming from what they say is the sage, which is the safe, loved, compassionate part of us, then when you love yourself, then you don't get scared of the other. There is no other, because you just know, I'm doing the best I can. You're doing the best you can. Let's try and just come that way, even if it shows up as anger, even if it shows up as criticism from other people, because we don't know what their judge is saying to them, right? And we don't know, the saddest thing is having people not know what compassion looks like for real. They've never had somebody listen to them. This is what I love. Again, one of the big things about, working with our grief is just learning to listen to ourselves fully present. That's really hard to do. So that's my first 2 cents. But
absolutely. I love all of that. I think that you brought up some really important points. And I think that the last one you just mentioned is really quite crucial. And that is to really pay attention to yourself, to be connected with your body, what's happening in your body, what's happening in your innards, right? What is your innards telling? What's your gut telling you, right? And let's also talk about the fact that some of us are not as connected with our guts as other people necessarily are, because of our experiences. We've learned not to trust ourselves. We've learned not to talk to ourselves. We silence ourselves, forget about other people silencing us, right? So being truthful with ourselves is about a lot of things. It's also about allowing yourself, giving yourself permission to speak to yourself, right? And the other thing I really liked about what you said was around the other parts of ourselves, the shadow parts of ourselves. Like, we are light and dark. We are human. That means we have things that are luminous and wonderful about us, and we have things that we find challenging and things that we have to work through. And normalizing that, I think, is very important, right? This is one of the things that kind of bothers me about social media, is because, we're not normalizing, not always. I mean, I do see a little bit more of people talking about the challenges and the struggles that they're facing, especially post-pandemic, as we're starting to open up again. We are learning more about how this pandemic has affected people's mental health, how, they're trying to kind of come back to level. They're trying to understand what's happened, and they're dealing with a lot of changes. There's been a lot of changes. We've seen people break up. We've seen families move away. We've seen all kinds of transition happening, and that's not an easy thing to deal with. So allowing yourself to see both the light and dark, giving yourself that permission to say, I don't have to be perfect. I'm not perfect. I'm not meant to be perfect. It's okay for me to have some issues. I am like clumsy as hell. Like, I drop things in the house all the time. My husband just goes, okay, right? Like, I'm not the most graceful person. And so I can either beat myself up about it, or I can go, okay, I'll clean it up. Don't worry, right? And then just be okay with it, because sometimes that's all you need, is just for someone to say it's okay. And if there's no one else around you to say it's okay, you got to tell yourself it's okay, right? I think the psychologist I'm thinking of, I think his name is Danny Coleman. He's one of the positive psychology pioneers. He talked about how the thoughts that we have, from 12,000 to 60,000 thoughts in a day. 80% of them are negative. 95% of those are repetitive. And so when you're thinking about the truth, and trying to sort out the truth, you have to remember what your brain is doing, how it's operating, and then how you need to kind of separate yourself from that and say, okay, if I've been telling myself this story for, I don't know, 30 years, and I've been telling myself this story 85% of the time with my thoughts, and 95% of those have been negative, repetitive thoughts, then it's not going to just unravel. It's allowing yourself to understand where the truth actually is. And the truth is not in the story. The truth is in actually the compassion that you have for yourself, the understanding that you show for yourself, and the language that you use to talk to yourself, right? And so I know it sounds like a lot, but that's why people like Gwen, myself, other people are around to help help you position yourself, help you find your grounding, find your compass, so that you're able to navigate this in a way that's healthier for you, and you're able to make those changes and patterns, and that you're able to do it consistently over long periods of time, because that is really what it takes to make change, right? Gwen, what are your thoughts?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the one thing, like, I know, again, I've been, as I said, I just finished this coaching program, and it works on your saboteurs and getting to know who they were. And it was, for me personally, one of the things that came up is I have like a thing about rejection. And, I've had this over the last couple of weeks. The thing is too, when we start trying to change things, the ego gets in the way. There's nothing wrong with an ego. There's nothing wrong with wanting to do more, be more, but that's also a frame of reference is the language I'm going to use for this. Because so what's happening now is I've had these really pretty strong transformations over the last month. It's been a little rock and roll for me. And now I feel really like grounded, which is great. But I've been feeling the pushback from my thought process,
Yeah.
where it's like things are happening and then the negative thoughts are flooding my head. Oh, well, they don't want to talk to you. Well, nobody wants to have you there. And it's really quite interesting because I've gone down that rabbit hole. But the reason it's more pronounced is because I'm working on that. It's because it's like, do I really think this? And then I try and ignore it. And you can't ignore it. You need to replace it. You need to be able to first of all, get an intention that you want to start being nicer to yourself.
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
So even if we have that intention, this is a computer. This is what computers are built on, and all those repetitive thoughts, and we can't multitask, but the loop is going on, right? So when you're doing something, focus on one thing, because then you can be present to when those little niggling thoughts are coming in. And that's the interesting thing. I have literally lost probably like 2 days because somebody says something in a way and I take that as a rejection. And it was just, it's been fascinating. Like, again, the great part about curiosity is that when we get curious about ourselves, what makes us tick, what makes us who we are, and then love all those parts, it's a wonderful opportunity to go, oh, okay, that's an interesting thought. Where are you coming from? And then I'm just trying to hug my rejection. I'm trying to say, okay, there may be some truth to that, because again, in everything there's truth, in everything there's misrepresentation. That's why, like, as we talked about last week with emotional honesty, it's not so much that you are being perfect. The important part is that whatever you feel about it is what you address. Whatever you're feeling about those thoughts, they go together because the one feeds the other. So you want to be able to, oh, okay, there's that thought. Isn't that interesting? Where's that coming from? And not dismiss it, embrace it and change it. Does that make sense, Aisha? What do you think?
Yeah, 100% it does. And I think, what you're talking about, especially the pushback from the ego, is really important to remember, because when you're making wholesale changes, whether you're making them in yourself or whether you're making them in relationships with other people, there, for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction, right? That's physics, that's science. So that's happening. So as you're trying to implement changes, right, your ego and your saboteurs, they're all working together there, and they're going, no, we're not going to do that. We like the way things are. We like this pattern. And so having the support of someone like Gwenda or myself or any other coach that is going to help you keep the context and the perspective is helpful, because you might feel like you're not able to make that change. You might feel like, maybe I'm better off just staying where I am. And sometimes you need a helping hand to get you there. And both Gwenda and I have experienced that. We don't do the stuff that we do for ourselves alone. We do it sometimes with each other. We do it sometimes with other people, because the value of having someone who is trained to support you in that is immeasurable, and it helps you actually get there, right? So I think that's really important to remember. I think knowing your saboteurs can be scary. Again, one of the things that working with someone can do is help you to normalize that this happens to everybody. You're not the only person who's experiencing this, right? So dismantling our truth, understanding our truth, where it comes from, why it exists, whose voice it is, because it might not be your voice, it might be your parents' voice, it might be the voice of a teacher, it might be a voice of friends, people that you might still be hearing those voices within the communities that you're in from other people that are around you. It's to be able to recognize what is really your truth as opposed to the truth that other people are telling you, and to be able to look at that through a compassionate lens. So you've got, when it comes to being truthful to yourself, what's important in the language is be compassionate and be truthful at the same time, right? And then recognize, working with your shadow self, working with the things about ourselves that we don't like, means sitting in discomfort. I'm going to be talking about that this week in my posts. It means sitting in discomfort. It means letting yourself understand, I only know what I know in this particular moment.
Yeah.
It's all I know. And I don't know everything. Oh my gosh, I don't know everything. Like, there's so much I don't know. So it's helpful to do that because it gives your truth context, right? So Gwen, do you want to comment on that? And then I'll talk a little bit about truth and other people.
Yeah, no, I think it's like, again, this is a really interesting thing, is when we have something that interrupts our pattern, then you have to commit to the direction that you want to go in. So it's really, I mean, reflection is talked about a lot. And one of the, I believe you did say about giving ourselves permission.
Yes.
To giving ourselves permission. It's like, okay, I'm going to work on this. And that's why sometimes it's really hard to set a goal as opposed to an intention. It's nice. I want to be able to run a 5K again. That'd be great. But more importantly, I want to be more healthy, right?
Yeah,
so it's more important. What is more healthy? Well, that can be a number of things, whereas just running, so sometimes goals are good in business, but not necessarily with who it is that we're choosing to be, right? It's more of an intention, a direction, and being honest with our values, really, like being, having it so that what matters to us, because if you're incongruent with what actually matters to you and the words that are coming out of your mouth, that's not good for your head, right? Because you're feeling a total disconnect. And I know this will get into even when you're dealing with other people, right? And how we're,
absolutely.
Setting boundaries, things like that. So go for it.
Absolutely. And I just want to, I know, right? I just want to pick up on what you said about intention. Like intention is, so for me, the way that I look at it is intention is the rooting, is that you have an idea, you plant a seed, right? And then attention is the growth, it's the action, right? And you need those two things together, because you can't just have an intention that I'm going to be compassionate to myself and then you go back and do exactly the same thing. It requires you to pay attention and to keep doing the practice. And that's what this is all about. It's about creating a sustainable and productive and positive practice for you that you can keep doing day to day so that you actually make those changes happen. So it's intention and attention. Those two things are working together. Now, so we talked about compassion and truth when it comes to individuals. When it comes to other people, I want to talk about honesty and integrity. Okay. And the reason why is because how we share the truth with other people is often rooted in our emotional stuff. Okay. So even if we have the best of intentions for something, how we share that information has to be rooted in integrity, right? So if you say, let's say you say, I have to tell the truth. I have to tell the truth. I need to tell so-and-so that their XYZ is like awful, like, oh, that dress that she was wearing, it totally didn't suit her. It's not, she shouldn't wear that. She looked awful, all that stuff. Well, whose truth is that?
Mm,
That's your truth. Why do you feel compelled to tell the truth? Why do you feel like, what is behind that? What are the emotions behind it? Right? We, you, when we want to tell the truth to someone else, we need to figure out what is the reason why we want to tell the truth. And that will determine, and to really be useful with your honesty is to have it rooted in integrity, right?
yeah.
If your friend felt good in what she was wearing and she thought that she looked good, regardless of what you think of it, what is the thing of integrity that you should be doing in that moment?
Yeah.
If you're having an argument with your spouse about something, right? And you're talking about one specific thing, you're talking about, I don't know, they didn't take the garbage out, whatever, right? Something inane like that. And you decide in yourself, oh, I need to tell the truth because he didn't take, or she didn't take, or they didn't take the garbage out 5 times over the last, 3 months. And I've had to do it and I've been very upset about it. And I need to get that off my chest. And I need to tell them that they're not doing as much as they think they're doing. And all right. What is it? Are you telling them this because it's going to be helpful to that conversation? Are you telling this because you're trying to persuade them to take out the garbage more frequently? Are you telling them this because emotionally you have not been able to be honest with them for the X number of months that you haven't been telling them this, right? What is the reason why you're being honest? And if you really sit down and think about it and you're like, okay, well, I want to be self-righteous and I want to be able to make them wrong and I want them to comply, then it becomes a power thing. Then it's not about the truth. That's about controlling their behavior and making them align with what you want them to do. And these are the things that we learn through the socialization that we have with our parents, with people around us when we're growing up, in our social groups. We see all this stuff happening. We see it on TV, we see it in the society around us, and we function in that way. And we don't think that telling the truth is manipulative, but sometimes the way that we talk about the truth is manipulative. And so you always, before you open your mouth, you need to think about what is the reason why I'm telling the truth and what is the truth that I need to say. If you want your partner to take out the garbage, then what you have to say is what? Listen, I would really like you to take out the garbage. You didn't take it out last week and it upsets me and annoys me. So can you please do it? Like, that's all you need to say. You don't have to bring in the 5-year history of how many times the garbage went out on the right day, right? Think about how can you be clear and direct and speak your truth, but in a way that's not meant to control other people. Make sure that you're telling your truth from a place of integrity. What is it going to do when it leaves your lips? What is the impact on your relationship going to be? Is it something that you want to be able to live with after that, right?
Oh, perfect. I love that. I love that. One of the things is like, especially with the garbage kind of conversation, especially in relationships, and this can also be in friendships, is that, oh, you don't call me, you don't support me. So again, this is where the reflection comes in, honest reflection. Am I being clear on what it is I need from any of these relationships that are in my world? Am I having unexpressed expectations of them where they can never win if they don't know, right? And sometimes not taking out the garbage, it's like, I don't feel that you're meeting my needs over here, but the garbage is going to be the delivery of the point.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And I think it's really important. And again, we are responsible but the thing is too, that I want to throw in, because one of the things I know in my past, oh my God, I would apologize for the sky being blue. And that's, half of it was just, I was blamed for some things. So I just always apologize. That's not being in integrity either. Saying I'm sorry about something and you're just doing it because you want something to stop, or, that's not being in integrity either. Like,
Yeah.
if you're not fully responsible, and this is the thing that's interesting when you bring up integrity, there's two of you involved in this conversation. So if the other person is disregarding what you're saying, then it's up to you to say, what is it I need from you?
Yeah.
And be clear. And we've talked about clarity, and I love your programs are all about that, right? Getting clear on expressing what it is that we need. So that's on the personal note. And when you were talking about this and the whole, oh, that dress looks good on you. I used to work I used to sell clothing 1,000 years ago. And there was only one time where this woman came in. I don't know if you remember, like it was, the in thing was like mid-calf length skirts. So it was like this, it wasn't even a trend, I don't think, but it was that we had a lot of those, we had some of those in the shop, and they were like denim, everything was denim or something. And this woman came in and she tried them, and it wasn't flattering on her. Like, it wasn't the best thing for her. There was a couple other things that we could have done. But even in that situation, if you want to buy that and you feel good, that's fine. But again, so the way that I put it, because this is the only time where I saw somebody where it's like, okay, this does not flatter. This does not, you're buying a trend instead of dressing for your body type, right? And again, there's a difference, because sometimes we want to do what everybody else does. But even in that case, it's like, my job here was like, okay, is this what you were looking for?
Yeah.
So I'm not judging anything, because it's not my experience, it's hers.
Yeah.
And she looked, and then she had a smile and she said, yeah, this is what I'm looking for. It's like, okay, but at least there, I'm trying to start a conversation, because I look at that like a used car salesman. I don't want to just sell you something because this is what you're coming in. I want you to go out and, and I'm not the biggest fashion plate either, right? But there's times where I put on things and go, but then, if you like it, if it's like bright colors and whatever, that's what I like. But it was like in this situation, I felt like it's like, this is the only time, like, this does not suit you. This is not flattering. She felt good. Okay, I'll sell it to you. Do you know what I mean? So,
Yeah,
so that's an interesting thing, because even when it comes to, if people, like, one of the phrases that I like is when I'm listening to somebody, and then at the end, I say, how can I help you? Right?
Yeah.
What is it that you need from me right now? What kind of response? And actually, one time this week, I was multitasking. Multitasking doesn't work when you need to be engaged with one person. Like, there's no such thing. Put aside whatever it is, because that's exactly what happened. Was I was in this other frame of mind, and I responded automatically, and it didn't come across as supportive. And the second I like, and then I came back to it because I was doing something else, and I came back and it's like, oh my goodness, that's not good. And I automatically, I said, sorry about that. And that's the important thing, is to be mindful in whatever communications you're doing. And am I feeling tightness somewhere? That's telling me that this is a reactionary statement that I'm about to make, right? And then even if you do have a reactionary statement, be okay with yourself and go, you know what? I'm doing the best I can, and really try to reflect on the intention of your communication, right? That's my 2 cents. What do you think?
100%. I think that you have to. And I think, as you were saying earlier, I think that the other thing to consider is what is your role in that situation? Like, what are you there to provide? What is your, taking your personal feelings aside, like you did when you were dealing with that customer, is that you put your personal feelings aside and you say, okay, I'm here to support this person. And so it isn't about what I think. It's not about what I think they should do or how I think they look. It's about, okay, I need to support you because this is what you want for yourself. And you are a perfectly capable person of making your own decisions, right? It gets more complicated when the emotions and the relationships are more personal, right? And we've talked about this before. You want to have safety, you want to have agency, and you don't always have that in scenarios, right? I can share with you that a long time ago, very long time ago, when I was in my 20s, that a good friend of mine was dating someone, and they were on a break for a while. And that person, their partner at the time, reached out to someone that knew our group of friends and asked about me, what was my situation? Was I single? Was I seeing anybody, and all this stuff? And so that came back to me. That person came back to me and said, "Oh my God, this person asked about you, and they know how close you are with this, with your friend, and I can't believe they did that," and all this stuff. And I was just like, "Oh my God," like grossed out for one thing. But secondly, it was it was a moral conundrum for me, was to whether to tell my friend or not, because I had seen her go badass on people that she thought were threatening her relationship, even though they were on a break, right? And at the time, I did not share that with her because I did not feel safe that if I did that, that she would understand that it's not me, that it's him, right? And it was not an easy decision to make. It was not just the safety. I didn't feel like that was something that we could have an honest relationship about, right? Or an honest conversation about, where there would be seen and heard, where I would be seen and heard, and where we could have a conversation about that. And it, unfortunately, what happened from that, and they had a long history together after that anyway, which was not good. What I did do was I just distanced myself from any conversation around that relationship, and just wouldn't engage in anything or go anywhere where they were going to be together, which was difficult as well. But unfortunately, what happened from that was that affected our relationship, in that I felt like I could not be truthful with her about things, because I didn't feel like there was a space for that conversation, any kind of conversation to happen that would have we could have a meaningful conversation about it. And that was a decision that I made. And I do think about that when it comes to truth. I think about whether I made the right decision then, because it kind of led me down a path of not being able to have conversations of integrity with her, right? And there was a lot of expectation. There was a lot of stuff that never got really talked about, So that's the downside of not having integrity in conversations, even if you're dealing with integrity, and you're trying to have integrity on one end, right? You don't want to upset somebody, you don't want to make them feel bad, you don't want to ruin your relationship with them. So you're trying to come from a place of love and understanding and caring, but then it also does have impacts further on down the line, And I think that we don't consider that, because once you start operating from a place where you don't have integrity, it's very easy to keep going down that road. Right.
And it does. And that's where, we talked about, like in the title, it's about how it can affect our mental health, because the challenging thing is that there's a lot of times where we call people friends, but we don't necessarily have emotional honesty. We don't have that emotional connection. And so if I think it's important. This is the problem with labels, right? Is that maybe you're putting more importance on the relationship than somebody else is, right? And so because if they really are a friend, you know, or what I would call a friend, you want to be able to say, you know, and what is your truth, what is your honesty, or whatever your opinion is based on what however you're trying to support these people, right? So and God knows I'm not the best, but it's like that's why I asked that question. How can I, what do you want me to do at this point? Because I can be, if you don't ask me the question, if you don't want an answer, and I'll put it in a way that I hope is lovingly supportive. But sometimes we like, I'd rather have people that tell me how it is than people that don't, right? So even though sometimes that can feel hurtful, it can feel like we're still responsible for our own emotional expression. We're still responsible for our emotions. And if what somebody else says, is it embarrassing? Is it shame? Is it, you know, any of those feelings that come to light out of whatever conversation we're having, that gives you an indicator that something's going on inside you, and it's got nothing to do with the other person, right? So that's my 2 cents there. So
No, that's 100% right. And I think, you know, that it's again, like I said, if I look back on it and I consider it, I can reflect on all the things that stopped me from being honest, the fear, the shame that this had happened, the fear of loss, because she was a good friend of mine. She was someone that I cared about. And also, you know, I think now when I look back on it, I have to remind myself that I only knew what I knew at the time, right? So me in my 50s probably make a different decision than me in my 20s when I didn't, you know, when it was a different world, when I was in a different headspace. You know, experience teaches you a lot, and then you are more, when you learn from it, because if you don't learn from it, you're bound to make those same mistakes over and over again, is when you learn from it, then you can operate in a, you know, in a healthier way, in a more kinder and compassionate way for yourself and also for other people, right? Yeah, that's the thing. So anyway, so when it comes to people, you want to put the honesty with integrity, and you want to come from that place of honesty, integrity. So for yourself, it's honesty and compassion, and with other people, it's honesty, integrity, and both of those things go back and forth. So integrity and compassion also go the other 2 ways as well. Yeah,
absolutely. Wow.
yeah.
So here we go. We're at 45 minutes now. As always, never a quiet, dull moment here with Aisha and myself.
Right.
Some people would call us chatty. We would say that we're just talking.
That's right.
How's that for a blatant plug? I'm just in a really silly mood today. I really wish everybody, I know that it's a little windy and crazy out there. So next week we are going to, I'm not quite sure how we're going to do this, who our guest is going to be. That's along the lines of honesty. And so maybe it'll be a surprise. Maybe again, for all of you, anybody has a question, you have a comment, anything you want to see discussed, post, DM, either direct message Aisha or myself, and we'll get your questions on the air. Or maybe you can even come on and be coached, a little mini coach.
Yes.
You know, just because that's what we're all about. So this is all, so that's what I would say is like, is it easy for you to be honest in your relationships? Maybe we'll post a poll this week.
Sure. I think that's a great idea. Yeah.
And just see what kind of feedback we get with that. So
that's right. Now, when we've been talking this week about, or last week about emotions, this week we're talking about language, and next week we're going to be talking about the practice of being honest.
Yes.
So these things, like how do you interrupt patterns? How do you, how do you take a pause? How do you take care of yourself? How do you talk to other people, positioning things that are not in comparison, not in complaint, not in laundry lists of things you feel like you need to be honest about? We're going to talk a little bit more about that in detail. So yes, looking forward to that.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you, Aisha. You're beautiful. I love you. I'm so
You
glad
too,
to partner with
Judy.
you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And
So
let's,
for, yeah, go ahead.
no, go.
No, I was just going to say, so, so just for anyone who's interested, I'm Aisha Dami Magueda. I'm the Purposeful Communication Coach. You can check out my Facebook page, Intentionally Design Your Life. You can check out my website, Intentionally Design Your Life as well.com. I have a new program. It's called Empowered Expression. It's a 16-week program on how to connect with your core elements, body, heart, mind, and spirit, and to live a more purposeful and a happier life, get more of what you want. So please check that out. Also, a more condensed version is available for people who have already been doing some of this work and just really want to focus on particular areas. So please reach out to me if you would like a consult. Yeah, please do. And Gwen?
And I am Gwenda Lambert. I'm a grief recovery method specialist. And really what I help you do is get in touch with your emotional landscape. We have 2 programs coming up. They're going to be starting in April on the 20th and the 21st. So one of them is Sunday afternoon class. It's an 8-week session. And the other is a Monday evening, 7 to 9 class. And so again, it's an 8-week session and we do it in groups. And why is that? You can also do one-on-one if you're interested in one-on-one work. But the reason I like to do groups is because we are all in the same boat. We all have emotional processing to do in our life. The other class that's going to be coming up is helping children with loss. So we don't work directly with children. We're not therapists or anything like that. This is an educational program. And what this is it helps parents, teachers, anybody that deals with children, and it helps us anticipate what are the effects of changes or loss in their life so that you can better support them. Because again, having intentionally design our life, it's important to be intentional. And to help children also embrace their emotional landscape, because we are all programmed. We are. So let's get more mindful. So that's what I do. And we'll have posts. We'll have that underneath the post and Just Talking. And I have it Just Talking Facebook or YouTube channel where you can see any of our past shows. So boy, that's a chatty. We've been chatting up a storm today.
So, a storm today. Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
I love it.
All right.
Okay, love you, Aisha.
Thank you, lovely. Love you too. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks
love
for
you.
watching,
See you
and we'll talk to you next week
next week
here at Just Talking.